In this video, I'm going to talk about anger, resentment, and self-criticism as it relates to people pleasers. We're going to continue with that people-pleasing topic. So people-pleasing often begins as a survival strategy, typically in our childhood. By putting others' needs first, we believed we'd stay valued and safe. Again, this typically happens sort of in developmental years with our caregivers and parents. But in adulthood, this strategy can lead to resentment and frustration. As people pleasers, we create unspoken expectations in our relationships. We expect that if we take care of others, they'll feel happy and they'll stay close to us. They won't abandon us. We might even think to ourselves, they won't leave me. They have it too good with me. No one else will take care of them as just like I do, or as good as I do. But the problem is that this belief and this thought that we have within ourselves, it gives us a false sense of control in our relationships. And this is often at the expense of our own well-being. So when others don't respond as we hoped they would, as we thought they might, as we wanted them to, we then inevitably feel like we've lost control in our relationships. We get anxious. We get worried that they'll leave. We start feeling angry and resentful that our efforts weren't enough. But here's where the cycle deepens. Instead of addressing our needs directly, often more vulnerable feelings, we often turn that anger inward towards ourselves. People pleasers tend to feel guilty for feeling angry. This can in turn lead to self-criticism and shame. We start thinking, I didn't do enough. That's why they didn't validate me. I'm not present enough. I'm not working hard enough. That's why they didn't acknowledge me or tell me I'm doing a good job. This spiral fuels shame and reinforces the core belief of I'm not good enough unless I'm pleasing others. So to manage the discomfort of all these difficult feelings, us people pleasers, we might double down on pleasing. We might try even harder to empathize and meet the other person's needs. But when this still doesn't lead to the validation or acknowledgement or recognition that we're seeking, then anger and resentment can build up. Sometimes we even withdraw or isolate ourselves from those people that we love, from our relationships, as a way to cope with the frustration. It's almost like we start playing hard to get or pulling away because it's sort of more familiar or more comfortable to do that than to face our more vulnerable feelings under the anger. But anger is actually a protective signal. It alerts us when our boundaries are being crossed or when our needs aren't being met. The thing is, though, many people pleasers are actually overstepping their own boundaries. It's like as people pleasers, we're showing consistently that we put others first. So we're sort of unintentionally showing others that we don't have boundaries. If we can't say no, or if we continuously feel compelled to rush to someone's aid, even when they haven't asked for it or shown that they want it, we end up setting the expectation that we'll always be there. Other people learn from us what our boundaries are. So if we don't set boundaries, other people don't think we have any. So they always think we're willing to help. So this unintentionally reinforces to others and ourselves that our needs are secondary. So here's where the anger becomes really important. Anger can actually help us set boundaries. When we feel it coming from resentment or blame, when we feel that anger in relation and we start thinking about, oh, they did this, they're the problem, this is often a sign that there's a more vulnerable feeling beneath this type of anger. This is a more secondary anger. Those other feelings underneath typically are sadness, fear, or even shame. When people pleasers feel anger or resentment, this is a time to reflect. It's a cue to say, oh, almost like ask yourself, like, how did this boundary get violated? Did I take on something that wasn't asked of me? Was I hoping that by doing this thing for this person that I would be validated or given appreciation, even though I never expressed that I wanted that? Did I clearly communicate my own needs and expectations? So the really important thing for people pleasers, especially around anger and resentment, is to take ownership of these feelings, especially the ones beneath the anger and resentment, such as fear of abandonment, sadness at feeling unseen, or shame. We're better able to understand what we need and can communicate this openly once we know these more underlying feelings. Sharing these underlying feelings allows the other person to see where we're coming from and helps them to empathize with us and understand what kind of support we truly need. Almost lets them know the underbelly of what's really going on with us. It's a real vulnerable self expression. So, in future posts, we'll explore a little bit more around sort of accepting help from others as well, because this is difficult for people pleasers typically. So, if we're to put this knowledge into action, let's have some self reflection type of thoughts. Okay, so think of a time when you felt anger or resentment. What expectations or unspoken needs were behind those feelings? That often require you to sink a little bit deeper underneath that anger as well. You can try a journaling exercise. So, like, write about a recent moment of frustration, describe what boundaries were crossed, and ask yourself, did you clearly communicate your needs at the time before feeling angry or resentment? Feel free to post any comments or questions in the comment section as well. I want to hear your thoughts on this topic. Thanks for watching today. I'll continue on the series with people-pleasing topics. And the next video will likely be about people pleasers and their difficulty in accepting help and also difficulty in reaching out for help. Thanks.